Hello, welcome back to Anchored Life with Kayla. Today we're talking about fears and how not to let them interfere with your life. Is that too cheesy for you? We all have fears and they change in different seasons of your life, but I think at the core of it, we all have fears that revolve around something bad happening to us or someone that we love. When I became a mom just over a year ago, I, like so many other moms, was just so scared that something bad was going to happen to Sophie that every time when I went in to check on her before I went to sleep just to make sure she was okay in her crib, I just always had this fear. What if she's not breathing? What if something as terrible has happened to her while I wasn't with her? And I think that is very common among moms and probably dads too. I don't know, I'm not a dad, but definitely with moms. My mom told me that she had a friend that would like crawl into the child's crib and like put their face right up to the kid's face to make sure that they were breathing. So I'm pretty sure this is a normal thing, but just because it's a normal thing, we don't want to let it run our lives. Now that Sophie is over a year old, I'm a little less concerned that something terrible is going to happen to her while she's sleeping. She feels a little heartier, but the fear still does come into my head sometimes, and it's something that I have decided I'm not going to let rule me. I felt a little obsessive about it when she was a new baby, when I was constantly checking on her, making sure she's breathing. We did have an incident when she was newborn where she had to go to the hospital for dehydration. So I don't know if that impacted it at all, but I've just had to decide that I'm not going to let my mind go crazy and just think of all these wild thoughts. So what I have done that has actually been super helpful for me, so maybe it might be helpful for you, is when I start having these crazy thoughts and start feeling all worried, like when I'm going in to check on her, instead of letting my brain start thinking wild things, instead I'm just saying, I am so thankful for my beautiful daughter, and I focus in on something positive and something that is true, and then my mind has something to focus on while I'm going over to her, checking her. Yes, she's okay, and I'm in a thankful mood instead of a worried and frightened mood, and that has been so helpful to me. So I think you can use that principle really with whatever is going on with you. If you're having fears about anything, you can choose, instead of letting your brain go crazy on all the what ifs, what if that happens, what if that doesn't happen, you can instead pick something that is true, something that is going to remain, and focus on that until the worrisome thoughts move along. I had some friends in college that we would joke about, be a worrier, not a worrier, and they sound exactly the same, but we're meaning to say be a warrior, not a worrier. And I mean warrior in that you are stepping up, taking control of your thinking, and not letting your worries go out of control. Being a warrior means being on the offensive about taking control of your mind. So not being on the defensive, not laying back and letting your thoughts take control of everything that's going on in your head, but actually stepping up and saying, I am in control of my own mind. I have the ability to choose what I think about, and I'm going to choose to think truth, and I am not going to let these fears take over me. I used to be very complacent about my fears, and I knew if I had a fear about something, okay, well, that's just human nature. We're all scared of something, so I'll just let it take up real estate in my life. And then one day something happened that made me realize that that wasn't the best option, and I need to be doing something about these fears in my life. So this is another child-centered example, but just because that's the season I'm in right now. I used to be terrified of childbirth. I just did not want to give birth ever. This was long before I was pregnant with Sophie. And this was just not something that I wanted any part of, and I was terrified about just the idea of childbirth. And I was okay with that. I knew I was scared of it, and it was like, okay, well, that's just my preferences. And then one day, this was when I was in nursing school, and I happened to be on my maternity section, so I was actually watching real women give birth while I was doing my training. And I realized that childbirth is such a beautiful thing, the whole idea of it. that this person is just developing and growing inside of your body, and it really is a miracle. My fear was standing in the way of me being able to see something that was beautiful in the world. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but for me, all of a sudden it just hit me. And so after that day, I decided to deal with that fear, and I got over that fear. And obviously I did give birth because I have Sophie now. And I'm not gonna say that I'm a fan of giving birth. It's not like my opinion of that all of a sudden drastically changed and I'm in love with the whole idea. No, that did not happen. I just got rid of the fear. I got rid of the fear that was surrounding the whole idea. So it doesn't mean that I have to like it, but it just means that I'm not gonna fear it. And that was a choice that I had to make. When I realized that, it changed the way that I thought about fears, and it has changed the way that I deal with them. I don't want to let them sit in my life anymore and let them control the way that I make decisions and think about things. Obviously, there are some fears that are there to keep you safe and are legitimate fears. Fears like being scared to touch a fire or not wanting to poke a bear. Those are things that are there to protect you. And when I was thinking about different examples of fears that are there to protect you, I was thinking, okay, well, how could fear possibly be a good thing in, say, your marriage? What if you really fear getting divorced, so that fear just makes you a better spouse, that you won't get divorced? But then I realized that there is no fear in love. So letting fears drive you to make good decisions and to go the right paths in life, that is not a good motivator for the end result that you're looking for. That's not going to provide the whole healthy package. So instead, I would say you need to deal with that fear of divorce or whatever that fear is, and then make that decision to actually go in that direction without the fear being the motivator. You have a reasoning mind, you have the ability to choose, so make that decision that you're going to make the healthy choice. You are going to get rid of that fear. You have the ability to, so why not? It's going to take some hard work, but it is so worth it. And to not have that fear just hanging over your life and ruining the way that you interact with people and the way you think about yourself and the decisions that you make. Apathetically not making a choice will usually not result in the good decision just happening on its own, because those are usually harder to achieve and they actually require some energy and attention to get at. So if you've been letting fear run the show, you need to tell yourself that. Tell yourself, I have the ability to choose and I am not choosing fear. For me personally, I find it very helpful to pray when I am worried or fearful, because I believe that God is real, that He loves us and that He listens to us and He wants to be actively involved in our lives and help us out. So when I'm able to pray about something that worries me and give it to God, then that can just take the weight off of my shoulders. In the Bible, it says that the righteous person will have no fear of bad news because their heart is steadfast, trusting in the Lord. And I love to remind myself of this verse when I'm worrying about something that's going to happen in the future or could happen in the future, because it really helps me to set my mind and remind myself that God is with me no matter what happens. So whether this thing happens, whether it doesn't happen, God is with me through it all. And if it happens and it's not that bad, well, great. I didn't have to worry about it after all. And if it happens and it is as bad as I think that it's going to be or worse, God is with me in it and He is going to help me through that. I've mentioned in a previous video that there was a stretch of time that I was unemployed and I was actively searching for a job, and something it wasn't coming up. The right thing wasn't happening for me, and I legitimately had this fear that I would never get a job again, which is a ridiculous fear, but at the time it felt so real, and I was dealing with this issue that was just wearing on me, and the fear just felt real. And that's how fears are. Even though it's this idea that something could possibly happen, not even that it will happen, but that it could happen, it becomes so real to us in our minds that it really impacts our whole lives. I let my fears take over and they went wild. And obviously they weren't true because I have a job now and I love it and it is such a great place for me to work. But at the time, felt so real that I would never get a job again. So that's the thing, when we have these fears, we need to step back and take a look at them and see, okay, what is this fear all about? And what is actually the truth about this fear? Take a look and see what is the lie that I'm believing about this and what is the truth. And even if this fear is a legitimate fear that, I don't know, something bad is gonna happen to you, the truth of the matter is that God is always gonna be there with you, even if that fear comes true and materializes. We need to step up and take control of our fears. You first need to realize that you have a fear about something. So like before when I mentioned that I had this fear of childbirth, I kind of knew that it was there in my head somewhere, but I actually had to realize, okay, I have this fear of something and it's holding me back. So you have to actually acknowledge that there's something to be dealt with. Then once you have your fear, you need to actually make the decision, okay, I am gonna deal with this. I have the ability to choose and I am not choosing this fear. And then you take the truth about the matter and you focus on that. Keep reminding yourself of the truth and focus your brain in on what the truth is instead of what the fear is. And of course, I'm always going to recommend that you pray about it because I believe that God hears you, He loves you, and He is able to help you. I've previously made a video called How to Start Training Your Thinking and Renew Your Mind, and I highly recommend that you go check out that video now because it goes more into detail about how to replace lies with the truth that you're thinking and just to have a healthier way of thinking. I will link that video down below, but I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. I release new videos every single week, and if you have a friend that you think would enjoy this video, please share with them. I'll see you guys soon.